Hello to those that just got on live. We're out in the shop tonight doing some more boiler builds, putting some parts together. If you've been watching the lives the past few days, I've been putting together 2 different systems, so we're going to keep working on those. Steve, how's it going, man? John, how we doing? The customer contacted me today for this system, actually said, you know what? I'd like to switch from PEX to ProPress. So that's something I'm swapping out right now. Usually that would be like an upcharge, but you know, I don't take it too serious. If I have the parts in stock and I have the means to do it and we're not too far along, you know, I'll go ahead and swap them over. So that's what we're doing right now. The only thing is, usually I would purchase ProPress fittings just like this, or I'm sorry, the ProPress flanges just like this. So we have a threaded fitting on these sides that we had the PEX fittings in. We're just going to go ahead and put in the ProPress adapters for now, so we could keep this system moving along here. If not, I'd have to reorder these, which we could do. It's not going to make or break anything, but he was willing to accept that instead of waiting and purchasing other parts and whatnot. So, like I said, if it's done right, it won't cause any issue at all anyway. So we're gonna get this going. The only pain is it's a little more difficult to do them when I have it already all together, but we're gonna make it work here. So I'm just gonna throw down something so we don't scratch some stuff up here. I'm excited. It's Friday night. I like getting out here and just getting moving, getting things done. So let's see, we got, I wish you didn't have to just sit here and watch me put fittings together every night, but it's kind of part of the job. So after I finish this up, we're gonna get rocking and rolling with some copper pipe and start cutting that, fitting everything together. That's when you start seeing the system really come together. So usually it's a day or two of me just messing around with these parts, and then we'll get moving. So let me prep all these real quick. So I stopped at the store today to pick these up. $16 a piece is what they retail go for. I get them a little cheaper, but still $16. So you got to think 16 times 6 plus tax. If you're paying tax, it adds up quick. $100 just to swap these fittings over from PEX to ProPress. So John, this is, I guess you could say a side job, but really this pays the bills. So whether I had 3 or 4 jobs, it's all a primary job if it's what's paying the bills here. So yeah, I've been doing this for years, man. Boiler systems are just kind of my thing. Started off building homes for myself, for friends, got into radiant on my own builds, basically self-taught. And the thing with me is when I start something, I just get obsessed with it until I know it in and out. So over many years I've been doing this now, I do consider, you know, not in everything, I would not consider myself an expert, but boiler systems is one thing I would claim that. So there's not too many things I would say that about. I'm definitely a jack of all trades, for sure, but I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty and figure something out. I've done a lot of things wrong to get where I am today, I'll tell you that much. But, you know, as the saying goes, it's like if you did it right the first time, you didn't learn anything, but it's for real. I mean, I had to mess up a lot of stuff to get where I am today. But here we are. What I don't do is I don't do field work. I don't go into the field. I do every once in a while. I mean, like for close friends or close customers that are local, but I don't go. You know, I'm not installing boiler systems and doing plumbing all day long. I focus on, you know, doing these builds and consulting. I do a lot of residential DIY home construction. So if you're building your own home, that is the one thing. Like I said, I've built many homes over the years too. So, you know, I know the process in and out of building your own home. So what I do is consult for other people that, you know, want to build their own home. They aren't afraid to do it. They just don't know maybe where to start or how to get through the whole thing. So basically consulting on GCing your own project. Even if it's just something small, like just adding on an addition or even just renovating a home, or I've helped people be able to just install their own faucet in the bathroom. You know, it's like if you could save yourself, if you could pay me a very small fee to help guide you how to install something like that, even that simple, you could save yourself hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on simple tasks. I love teaching. I love spreading the knowledge like that. So it works out great. All right, so we're going to get these fittings here prepped. You've seen me do this a million times, but here we are again. So we need to get these ProPress fittings on these, get them over to the board, get back to it. Now let me just see if this will work. This may or may not work. This is my pipe vise. If you've never seen one of these things are awesome too. So the problem is, and this is what happens a lot of times, it just doesn't fit. They make different sizes. This is the only one I have currently because I don't really use it that much. But definitely convenient for smaller fittings, but trying to put something that big in it is just not, it doesn't work out as easy. So we're going to do this the hard way. Just get it done with, there's my other wrench here. And please feel free, if you guys got questions at all about anything with these systems, you know, feel free, message, leave a comment on there, and I'll talk through it. All right, so we have this one now adapted. I'm gonna go throw that on the board. And I promise we will get to putting one of these systems together, or at least as far as we could go tonight. And I got all night. Actually, the only thing I got to do is wake up really early to go fishing, which is another hobby of mine. I rarely get to do it, so I'm waking up extremely early, and I'm just going to go for a few hours before the kids even get up and moving. So it's going to be a late night out here, early rise, and do it all over again. bashing my finger on that thing. This is the last circulator. There's 3 of them on this system. Then we're going to get the 3 shut off, the purge valves for the returns, throw some fittings on there, and then get over to the board. I probably mentioned it last night when I was live, but I'm going to be replacing this whole bench here. I got somebody custom making me a nice wooden bench. They're local. Found them on Facebook Marketplace, and I obviously, you know, I build homes. I build all this stuff. I'm more than capable of building a new workbench, but sometimes the smallest tasks seem like so much work when you're busy, and I could cut out the time to do it, but when I found this person to build me one, they do excellent work. The pricing is extremely well, you know, it's very affordable for what they're delivering, and I'd like to support their small business, so I figured, you know, maybe in the future I'll be able to offer them something, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. So that'll be something new you guys will see soon. And you probably don't notice, but in the middle there, from me putting so many fittings together, I'm literally wearing a hole down in the middle of this thing. I mean, it is that chipboard with the fine flakes in it, but it's been around many years. The only thing is, I can't get rid of this thing. I got to do something else with it because a very close friend of mine that actually passed away handed this down to me. So it sounds kind of silly, but I don't know many things from him except for a bench like this. So it's still got his markings and things that he wrote down on it. So it's kind of cool. I definitely am not scrapping it. I've carried it with me this whole way, so I figured I'd keep it going. Yeah, I definitely got my money worth, but that's the thing. Like I said, it was a hand-me-down, and it's sentimental. I actually purchased a house from my friend, and he left it there, and he said, you know, obviously, here, keep it there, you'll use it, and obviously I have. But he had it for many, many years, and then I took it over, and then, like I said, he passed away a few years ago, unfortunately, and this is, I got many other ways to remember him, but one of them's a bench, I guess, so. But yeah, the new one will be cool. It's, I mean, it's nothing crazy. It's got, it's all made of plywood and 2x lumber and whatnot, really sturdy. But it's got pegboard on the backing so that I can put my tools here. Everything that you see on here, I'll just mount on the pegboard. It's pretty cliche, or, you know, it's nothing too fancy, but like I said, I like the idea of just keeping it simple and supporting someone local. I actually talked to them again today. They're going to be drawing it up, I think, like, to show me a design. I'm like, just build it. I'll be happy with it no matter what. But I tried talking to them a little bit about doing social media or YouTube, and if they did that at all, and they don't. They just post their stuff on marketplace. And they said they just never really got into it, but I said, well, hey, I'll do a little quick video about your build, your benches and stuff when I get mine. And, you know, obviously they're happy about that, but I don't know, maybe I'll convince them to start something. I mean, obviously it'll help with exposure if that's what they want, and getting out there and getting more work. So we got some questions here. Opinion on V-Spin condensing boiler. So V-Spin is obviously a very reputable company. You know, it's up there with the big boys. I will never knock on a boiler company just because I don't use it. They're all, I kind of tell all my customers this so that I'm being truthful and honest, and it's probably no surprise, but nothing's built to last like it used to. You know, everything's replaceable, and even all these boilers, you used to have to remove or open up the heat exchangers, scrub them out, clean them out. Now everything's pretty much sealed units. You know, if your heat exchanger goes bad, you just pull it out of the boiler, replace it, even if you do that. Sometimes you just replace the whole damn boiler, which is crazy. But so with that being said, all of these companies are pretty good. They all have a pretty good running. So V-Spin's one of them. Yeah, nothing against them. I don't have a ton of experience with them. I've seen them obviously out in the field and in installs and whatnot. I don't have too much good or bad to say about them, but I do design almost every single brand and model boiler I do designs for, but I don't necessarily work as intimately with a lot of, you know, certain models. But yeah, I don't think you could go wrong if you want a simple answer. Because not all these, like the Navians I use, for example, not everyone across the U.S. can get them in every single town that they may live in. They're very popular, but it's like that way for many brands. You may not be able to get certain brands in certain areas because there's no local distributor or supplier. But and then what other we got here? If you had to put it together with PEX, would you use all opener fittings and tubing? So, yeah, ideally, if you were to use expansion or PEX, that's ideal because then you're not losing any flow rate. But even if you had to use crimp PEX, I know that's not your question, but just so you understand how it works, even if you had to use crimp PEX, if you needed 3/4 and you just stepped it up to 1 inch, that small restriction that you're losing from the fittings, you could just minimize by stepping up a size. But yeah, if you're using expansion PEX, you could absolutely do these systems completely in PEX. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing against it. I have customers that actually want to try and save some money on copper and fittings and whatnot. So I will build them. The biggest thing about building these boiler systems with all copper piping is so that it's rigid and secure, so that when you are mounting these things on a board, that it's very rigid. Obviously the copper is going to last very long, but so will PEX. And it looks really nice, but you could still do a hell of a job and have the system run completely the same efficiency doing it with PEX. So I got nothing against it. And if anybody has something against it, they probably don't really have a good reason for it. All right, so let's see here. I've seen Euro style installs where the circulating pump is on all the time. You set the outdoor reset with correct curve and forget about it, no thermostat. So yes, I know what you're saying. It's kind of just it's on a low cruise all the time, which is pretty much like how a heat pump works. So I have a heat pump for my forced air, my air conditioning in my house. And that's how they work. They basically never shut off. It's like the fan is always on auto, and then the compressor will kick on here and there, just like the boiler would maybe. The point of that whole thing is basically it saves fuel by not doing a big startup and shut off every time. You basically just run it real low and cruise along, and it's supposed to be energy efficient. I don't really know how much you're going to save, because the one fallacy about any of that stuff is that even with my heat pump, you know, these things, yeah, they're extremely efficient, because you're not ramping up high speed and then shutting off and ramping up, same thing. But the reality of it is, it still just comes down to what is your heat loss, how many BTUs are needed. So if you want to save money, you just need to insulate better and tighten up your home. There's no other way around it. There's no secret sauce. There's no magic way of heating or cooling a home. You could start pinching pennies, but in the end, it all just comes down to insulating and basically minimizing the need for heating and cooling. So this home that I'm in, that I built completely spray foamed, which, you know, again, people may say things about that and have opinions. This home is extremely tight. Every single 2x4 and window and everything is completely caulked. But you have to be very, very conscious about allowing it to breathe, bringing in fresh air. And yes, houses need to breathe 100%. You need to control humidity. But if your house is extremely tight, you have the control over that. You have the control of how much air comes in, how much air leaves. You're not relying on just random holes and gaps and studs and all sorts of stuff. I know that's kind of on a tangent, but all right, so I'm done putting these together, because I didn't enjoy that any more than you did. So let's see. We're going to bring this. That one, really, I'm not loving how. These are really seated in there. That one's really not. Sometimes these fittings, they just. Yeah, I mean, that is wicked tight. We're going to roll with it. All right, so. So I'm going to bring you over to the boiler board, or boards, because we've got two of them going on, and we'll get these things starting to go together. And it looks like I bought an extra fitting. I bought 7 instead of 6. Didn't realize that, so we'll save that guy. Miscounted. Better to have extra than not enough, for sure. Okay, so here's our systems. Excuse my camera work here. It's one thing I got to work on. Bear with me. So we're going to start doing some work on this one, and you'll see me start fitting this together. I do, again, this is one thing. So this is the domestic hot and cold water connections. And like I said, the customer wanted to swap from PEX to press. So these are just an easy, quick swap. I'll do that at a later point so we can get this going. They're easy to just swap after, because there's nothing else. I don't connect anything to the domestic hot and cold. That'll be done when the board is all mounted up on the wall. So to spare you, I'll just keep these over there for a later time. And it's a nice night out. I'm going to open this garage up to get a little fresh air in here before the bugs start coming in. But It was a beautiful night. The weather was amazing today. Perfect. Not too hot. So we're going to work out here with the door open for a little bit, and then the mosquitoes start coming in. Let's see. Don, what'd you say? Did you put both tape and PTFE paste on those fittings? I absolutely did. I double it up. And in fact, I used to, and sometimes triple it up. So what I'll do is actually, on a fitting, I'll put a first minor coat of pipe dope, then I'll put tape on, then I'll put pipe dope on. So basically it's triple layering. However, none of those you go extra heavy on. They're all backups of one another. So by putting on a little bit of pipe dope first will cover anything that the Teflon might miss on a thread. The Teflon will cover anything the pipe dope might miss, and then I just do one more coat of pipe dope over that. So those fittings you saw me do, I just did the tape and the pipe dope, which is more than sufficient. Some things I'll just use pipe dope on. Some things, very rarely, I'll just do tape on. It just kind of depends. You'll learn that stuff as you go from experience. But yeah, I pretty much always double it up. And it's insanely rare to have a leak or a failure. I mean, if you just do it right. So what dope and tape do I recommend? So the tape, I literally use the cheapest stuff you can find. I mean, a lot of people use like the monster tape and all that. The problem, it's just way too thick. When you're trying to do these fittings, like you don't have a ton of room in there. So yeah, you could cram really thick tape in there and it'll probably seal it up, but sometimes it just causes more problems. So just use like very, very cheap Teflon tape. Just go get a pack from Lowe's or Home Depot. That's all you need because it's kind of like a backup and you're really using the pipe dope. So I use two different kinds. Mainly I use this Rector Seal T2, which is basically has the PTFE. Then the other thing I'll use is the number 5 they make. So I used to use this all the time. This is kind of a little bit better, if you will, but you really can't go wrong with either of these. I guess if you had to choose, like, use the T+2. They're both like soft set. I don't know, I guess I know in my head why and when I want to use this stuff, each one differently, but yeah, you can't go wrong with either of these. Like I said, maybe if you want something, purchase this, the T+2. These guys are really good to me. They send me all this stuff out and, give me everything to try, but they also recommend this for most applications. All right, so I'm going to get some little bit of prepping done here. I've got my copper pipe over in the corner. Let's see here. We need 1.25 inches. And I just kicked the box over. So luckily I didn't lose anything out of that. I gotta get my threaded rod that we're gonna use. I'm gonna use this. Just standard 3/8 threaded rod. We're gonna get, I think we need our tubing cutter. Oh, I'm already seeing mosquitoes in here, so I gotta shut this door already. But I'm actually gonna slide this other system out of the way a little bit. Don, thank you, man. Yeah, tune in again. I don't know if that means you're getting off the live, but subscribe if you haven't yet. And I think you already have, I believe. But Usually it takes me a minute to get going here. I gotta get all my tools out. My markers, toss those over there. Get both these impacts going. I don't like it. Too short. So what I do with all these fittings is deburr them with this tool. Just go around and scrape it like this, and it breaks down that little inner edge that's in there, so you don't get turbulence in there. And when that water's rushing through there, it'll grab that lip and start cavitating possibly, or wearing down that edge. And the other thing you want to do is sand it and prep it. Even though we're not sweat fitting it, we're pressing these fittings, and you want to make sure you're going to check for any lines. Anytime you press a fitting with the Pro Press, if you have a scratch running this way around the pipe, it's not a big deal. If you have one going this way, that's where you could get a potential leak through the gasket. So you really want to check for those. And I'm actually working on this system and this system at the same time. So some of the pieces I'm actually going to cut twice, and it's because I'm going to be using them over on this one. So dolly head braces, hold both ends with sandcloth. Maybe I don't understand what you mean. Hold both ends. Oh, you mean both ends of the pipe while I'm doing it. Yeah, good idea. Let me see. Learn something new every day, huh? Let's see. I'm assuming you mean like this. You get it done in one shot there. I like it. You know what I really wish they had was drill attachments that work up to larger pipe sizes. You know, they have like 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, but 1.25 inch. Once you go to 1.25 inch, they just don't really have anything. The other thing is a lot of these Pro Press fittings are really deep. The O-ring might not necessarily be, but really to prep it in the, you know, all the way as deep as you should. Like, they don't make bits that go down them long enough, unless they do, and I'm not aware. But I sure have searched the hell out of it, and I cannot find any. So, that would be one thing I'd pay big money to have. Thanks for the tip. That's good. So we're gonna cut that twice. Look at me now. Now I'm an expert. Now I'm a pro. Cool. All right, so that one's going to go over to that board. And you'll see this is going to end up here. We'll snake that over here. So we're going to end up doing another piece. The other thing you always want to do, I guess it's worth mentioning, is whenever you put one of these press fittings together, when you insert it all the way, you want to make a mark on the copper pipe so that as you're building this, well, that wasn't a great mark, let me go back. So as you're putting and assembling everything, when you go to press them, if this moved a little bit, which happens all the time, you'll know. You know that it's inserted all the way and that you're prepped and your ring is going to be sealed in there. If I didn't make these marks, I would absolutely have issues, because when you're assembling these things, they just move over all over the place when you're doing different parts of it. So definitely do that. Save yourself the trouble. Let's see. We're going to get another street 90 to put into this is the magnetic filter, so we're going to do street 90 right out of here. Give you a better angle here to work on. All right, so we're working, if you're just kind of tuning in here, we're just working on this boiler system here, starting the secondary loops, which will feed all of our pumps and all these parts laid out here, mixing valves, whatnot, it's all coming together. I'm just reading your comment now. Sorry if I missed the overview, but is this a 3-zone system? Yeah, so this is a 3-zone. It's a little hard to tell what's going on here, but let me do a quick walkthrough. So there's 3 circulators you can see obviously laid out here that are turned sideways right now currently, but there's 2 mixing valves and then 1 without. So our hot water is going to come off valves. I don't know if I just lost connection here. Just let me know if you missed out on what I was explaining. But the 2 with the mixing valves are going to be for low temp radiant zones, and the other one's going to be for a high temp zone, like an air handler, a radiator, a baseboard. So the mixing valves are in there to knock down the higher temp to be able to feed the radiant zones with a cooler temperature. First portion of where we actually, this is the magnetic filter and going back to the boilers into the primary loop of the boiler. So this is part of the secondary loops. Once you start seeing this all come Yeah, sorry about that. I know the connection, it looks like it dropped out for a second, but Yeah, basically, you'll see. I'm working my way this way, but feel free. Please keep asking questions. So what I'm going to start working on now, let's see, video keeps freezing, you're saying. Let me see. Yeah, I guess, John, let me know if it keeps doing that. If it keeps freezing up, yeah, anybody let me know. I don't know, what I could do on my end, but at least quickly right now, I don't know what I could do, but, maybe I need to get another mesh router out here in the shop. Usually I got a pretty strong connection, but, it's showing me right now I got it, but. Yeah, okay, great. Thanks, John. But yeah, let me know. Feel free, let me know if something's freezing up. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, but basically like any money that comes in from this channel, which, you know, if you have any idea about how YouTube money works at all, it's not, you don't see a Ferrari in my driveway. I know the garage is closed, but I promise you there's not one sitting out there. So, basically any money I get or income is just going to go towards like stuff like this, like getting, you know, a better camera set up, or, you know, I got a cheap tripod right now I'm doing this with. And maybe I need to get another mesh router out here in the shop. So that's something I might pick up. Yeah, just to make the content a little better. I'm definitely not the greatest videographer by any means, or I don't edit a lot of my videos, mainly because I just don't have time. I'm sure I could learn it. You know, I do a little bit here and there, but I just don't have the time. So mainly all I'm doing is just working, working, working. It's also what I love to do, so I'm not complaining. I don't like sitting still. Anybody that knows me knows I don't sit still ever. How long till the Ferrari? Man, about a million boilers and maybe I'll have one. I probably wouldn't ever buy one anyway. My history before doing boilers, I used to do auto body and paint cars and work on cars. So I'd probably just build my own car, just like you see me doing here. So maybe stay tuned. That'll be the next channel. Once I have a lot of spare time and extra money, maybe I'll get back into that. All right, so I'm going to start working on getting the return side of things up into here and just keep working myself this way. So again, if you got questions about what I'm currently working on or what I'm tying in, I'm just going to keep working away, but feel free and just keep asking questions as we go. I need some more. Let me go here. Now we get threaded around. Trying to get this in a good spot where you can kind of see me working and tying all this stuff in. It's kind of hard doing the vertical view, but, and let me know too, like I could do these live videos like horizontal if you want to hold your phone that way. I'm sure you probably don't mind, but yeah, let me know if that would be more convenient, I guess. Wonder why. Well, so Anthony, what are your thoughts behind using a NaviClean mag filter as opposed to a Webstone? And same about the air separator. So, yeah, you'll see me use all different brands. Sometimes it's mainly like I love them all. I have equally, they work great. You'll see me use them a lot of times for just different orientations of a build. Actually, got a Webstone magnetic filter there and a NaviClean over here. So, and it's a lot of times it's because it's the way we need to orient things. So this one, I have plenty of room to fit a Webstone and then be able to 90 up for that valve. But if I was to use a NaviClean over here, it would start taking up too much vertical space going that way, which we have a lot of things. Whereas over here, I'm going to take advantage of the NaviClean, the fact that it's allows me to 90 into it and then come out any direction I want. I'm going to take advantage of that because we don't have that other valve issue that we have over here. We're going to head straight up that way. So it's not that one works better than the other. They literally all do the same thing. They just have a magnet in them that traps the particles. So I mainly just choose it for that. Also, maybe if there's a point where I could use either of them, I try to save people money by just looking at whatever the cost is. So if I could get a NaviClean cheaper or a Webstone cheaper that day, and it doesn't matter which one I use, then I'll go with that just to save a couple bucks for the customer. So it really just depends, but all of them work fantastic, and I got nothing bad to say about any of them. So we're going to go ahead and crank this thing down. And Anthony, thanks for the question, man. You always got good ones. You did a boiler system yourself that I designed for you, and I gotta hand it to you, man. Came out excellent. So for those of you that are thinking about doing your own, I mean, I guided him throughout the whole design and the install, but really, I mean, did an excellent job and really came out good. I'm sure I think on my Google page, we have a photo of your system, but again, man, props to you. It came out awesome. Nico, the boiler god. That's a good one. I'm trying. I'm trying. So Nico Berto, that's on here live right now, We just did a job together locally. He's a contractor, and we did some warm board floors. We did I got a video about it. It was a cast iron boiler that the customer wanted to keep the existing cast iron boiler, but they were adding radiant heat. So they have some radiant zones and some in-floor heating, and the plan is to keep adding more radiant floor to each level of the house. It's a 3-level home. So that's an ongoing job that we have going on. That's been a fun one. Yeah, Anthony. Yeah, the plan got, yeah, I mean, yeah, but you say you just turn the wrenches, but man, I mean, that's, it all just comes down to if you're not scared to do it, you know, it's, anyone's capable. It's just, with a little guidance, you know, and if you're not afraid to get your hands dirty, you could do it. All right, so it's a little slow moving at the moment. But you can see like a lot of the, and I gotta admit, even being live, not that it's slowing me down because I'm nervous or something, by all means, I could care less. But no, really, it's just, you gotta think through it. None of these are cookie cutter, one of a kinds. I mean, some parts kind of go together that way, but you could see probably as I'm going that I'm thinking through each piece. You know, a lot of times I could pre-prep a lot of these things because a lot of these come out to be the same heights, but the problem is it's not, sometimes they just don't. Sometimes a little part is slightly different and I just have to tweak something here and there. So that's what keeps it unique and, you know, the quality up there, because everyone you could see I kind of put my time into it and make sure it's done right. So each piece I'm working through, and like I said, going live, you know, it's a little more to think about, reading comments and whatnot, but I love it. Love answering you guys' questions and stuff. So again, I mean, please feel free to keep asking them. It is Friday night. Like I said, I got nowhere to be except for out here. You know, this is kind of, I guess you could say, my happy place. It's work, but it's fun. We're going to keep it fun. So again, keep asking questions and we'll just keep working through it. All right, let's see. So do I have street fittings for that? Let me see. I might actually, I'm not going to get that far probably tonight, and if I do, then I'll go over, start working on this system, but I might pick up some street 90s. I'm just thinking through my head right now. But we'll see when we get there. All right, so we're going to keep creeping along here. We're going to need this to be at least this height here. We're going to put a clamp there, move that up. That's got to get to that level. All right, I think we're good. You can see what I'm doing is just kind of thinking through, getting the heights of everything ready, getting everything in the right spot, because you can only kind of do this once unless you want to restart from scratch. But, and this is where you could kind of, again, see that it's not a one size fits all the components you have to take into consideration, the heights of everything, where my brackets need to be, and I need to hit it right the first time. If not, we're redoing a lot of stuff, so. I think we're good at this point. We're gonna get this fit on here. And some more copper pipe. Yeah, plenty of copper pipe. I just restocked that, which, as you can imagine, is not cheap. This copper pipe pricing is unreal, especially when you get into inch and a quarter, inch and a half. Let's see here. Again, I'm trying to find a better. Wish I could go like widescreen on this thing, but. Bear with me again. Where did it go? Where did it go? There it is. So we're going to build one more of these. This is where this hammer comes in handy. So I gotta just rotate those a little bit. All right, so I'll explain a little bit. I wish you would, Penguin, wish you would start doing geothermal builds. So, I can. The only thing is, these are all mounted to boards, obviously, as you can see, so that you can bring them down into a basement or mount them on a wall anywhere. So, geothermal ends up a lot of times just being, you know, a larger unit that can't just be mounted on a board. It's usually, you know, carried into a utility room, and then all the pipes are connected to it. So you certainly could. And what I've done a lot of times is back up propane or gas boilers like this that tie into geothermal systems. So if anything goes wrong, you could switch back and forth. So I do actually do them. And I also do a lot of designs for geothermal. So it's just this system that I'm doing right here obviously just works really good for mounting on boards and all the components that need to be assembled. And for those of you that I guess aren't aware of the difference between geothermal and a boiler, for example, is it's just the boiler is the heat source as opposed to geothermal being basically a heat pump, and you're using the ground as a heat dump or to pick up heat from. So as far as all the components necessary, you still need every single thing here mounted on the board, or that will be mounted on the board. You still need all your circulators, you still need all of your air elimination, you need your filtration, you need all that stuff. The only difference is you're just tying it into a heat pump versus a boiler. So like I said, I do pre-build panels all the time without the boiler, ship those out, and then they just tie the ends into the geothermal system. But that's the only difference. So, and I guess with that being said, like I said, I built a lot of them where they tie in a backup boiler with the geothermal, where this system right here is actually what you'll see coming out, this piece that's kind of coming up and over, and you'll see right here is a three-way valve. So normally these systems would not have that. This is the return coming back to the boiler. Usually you would just have your purge valves that come back from your heat emitters, and it would just tie into this and then go back to the boiler. These two components here, the three-way valve and that elbow that's right there, is actually where you would connect a heat exchanger, a flat plate heat exchanger, if you want to tie in a wood boiler system. So the three-way valve, what that's doing is by directing it one way or the other, you're either telling it, send the return water directly back to the boiler, or at least to the manifold where it can be taken back into the boiler, or if you turn it to the other position, that would lead to a flat plate heat exchanger and would pick up heat through that from an outdoor wood boiler, and it would be fed back into this pipe. And basically what it would do is then tell the boiler to not fire. You don't have the gas boiler fire, just pick up the heat from the outdoor wood boiler and it would skip past the boiler by just running through the primary manifold. So this is a dual fuel system. You could either use wood or you could use the propane gas. And I know that may or may not make a lot of sense, but I will be making an in-depth video of this. I already have one for a system just like this with a wood backup, and I do explain it fully there, but I'm just going to do a fresh new video kind of walking through all of it and how it all works. And what this customer wanted was, they're not even going to add it right away, but they wanted the provisions to be able to add it. So what you'll see me do after this is there's a ball valve over there that we're going to be tying in addition to that, so that they have the ability to shut this off and add it in the future if they ever want to. And that's this ball valve here. That'll go here. I'll probably do it like this. So let's see. I like that. So now you can see the typical path from the returns of the heating system will be into this point right here, head back to the boiler, get heated up, and come back. Now, if you want, you'd kick this three-way valve that way, and that would force the water that's coming back from the zones to then head this path up into the heat exchanger, back into here, and continue on into the system. So we're good there, we got that pressed. Probably rotate this. That was a ghost. Something shut that. Hey, am I still frozen? Just want to make sure I'm not freezing up on you guys still. Someone messaged me, just let me know if we're good. Thanks, Steve. So the first thing I'm gonna do when I get off this live is order another mesh router out here in the shop. I wonder if that's the issue though, because I do have it's showing me I got perfect Wi-Fi out here. So I don't think that's the problem. Who knows? It could be a YouTube thing. Although I watch other lives and I don't ever see them freezing, so I'll have to look into that. I am using Starlink, which works excellent. I never really have issues streaming anything. Every once in a while there's a hiccup, but usually doesn't have any intermittent freeze or anything. But maybe I'll just try another mesh router out here and just see if that helps. So I'll walk through right now a little bit of what's going on here. So we have, and again, let me know if I'm freezing up, but so what we have here now is the main supply and return of the secondary piping all piped in. So out of the boiler here comes the hot supply for the heating, and here's our return. This is our primary manifold that Navien makes. So basically, you've probably heard me say this a few times, but I'll explain it again. The primary manifold is just responsible for this loop is just the primary boiler loop. There's a pump inside the boiler that just pulls water in that direction, goes into the heat exchanger, heats up the water, and gives hot water out of this right here. So it's just making this loop coming out of this one back into this one, and it's supplying whatever you set that boiler to. So if you set it to 150 degrees, it's going to put 150 degrees out of that port and just bring it right back into the boiler. What's coming into this direction would be the returns from your heating system. So if there's cooler water coming back, it's going to be partially pulled back up into the boiler, and some of that water is just going to keep going straight. But what's happening is that 150 degree water that's coming out of the boiler is going in the opposite direction of what's coming back from your heating. And the water is pretty much smashing together right in this area and mixing. And it's going to raise the temperature of the water coming back from your heat emitters proportionally to whatever the boiler is telling it to do. So if the boiler senses that if you set the boiler to 150 degrees and it senses really cold water coming back, it's going to kick that boiler into high gear and ensure that whatever you're sending out to your zones is whatever you have that set for. So that's what the modulating portion of the boiler does. It can adjust its flame internally and its BTU output depending on how cold that water is coming back. So when you first start up the system, you're going to have a lot of cold water rushing in and trying to go into that boiler. But the reason you do what this is called is primary secondary piping, what it means is not all of the water that's coming back from your zones is going back into the boiler. Because if you think about it, what would happen is you'd have this immediate rush of cold water that would fly into that heat exchanger and it would shock it completely. When you have 150 or maybe even like this thing's capable of 180 degrees. If you have 180 degree water and you shock this system with extremely cold water coming back, that's not good internally for the boiler. So the reason they have this primary loop and that hydraulic separation there is to keep the heat exchanger comfortable at all times. It's always seeing the same flow because it's controlled by an internal pump that's always flowing at the same speed. And if that incoming rush of water is extremely cold, a lot of that's going to just bypass right through it. And yes, that means you're going to still be continuing to send cold water to your heat emitters, but that's only going to happen for a set period of time. And eventually what's going to happen is that boiler temperature is going to start raising that secondary flow and make everything a gradual rise in temperature. So like I said, the modulating portion of that is when the cold water is coming back and it's sensing that, it's going to kick that flame up and push out those BTUs to get that water heated up. But as this water comes back a little warmer each time from your heat emitters, it's going to adjust its flame down, tighten that gap, and it will basically lower that flame down to almost nothing if that's all it takes. And it'll just keep adjusting like that. So even if you had if you had like zone valves in a system and another zone valve opens, it's going to sense that change in temperature and it's going to keep adjusting its flame. So right now we're just working on this boiler piping. I have the main supply, which is the lower one actually. So the hot water is going to come out of here. It's going to, in this magnetic filter's getting in the way here. But the hot water is essentially going to come into here, go through the air separator, eliminate any air we have in the system. This is where your expansion tank would connect to. And we're going to send that hot water up into here, and then that will go over into each circulator, and then our water is going to come back, come into the return, go through the magnetic filter, pick up any particles that we have floating around in the system before it goes back into the boiler. So we're going to pick up any junk that's in the system, filter that out before it gets put back in. And you can see right here, my arrow's pointed in the wrong direction, so we just need to flip this around. It doesn't, most magnetic filters do not matter on flow direction, but Webstone does, so we're just going to flip this thing around. We're going to do that before I forget, basically. So like a Naviclean, this one, the flow direction doesn't matter. You could put it in the top, out the side. You could twist these all different directions. Webstone just has theirs designed, and it's probably the way the water flows in it and catches the magnet in there. But like I said, I'm just going to flip that around so we don't forget. And we're just going to keep going along. And again, let me know if something's freezing up here at all. So far, I think we're good, but... So I'm just brainstorming right now. I think I have to make some adjustments, and this needs to come out higher up, and so does this. This needs to be extended up in order for me to get the length I need for all this stuff. So I'm just thinking through the best way to approach this. Alright, so I need to make an adjustment. I need to be let's say 31 inches. So this needs to be much better. 16. still good. I'll take that as a yes. So you can start to see this coming together now. You can see I skipped over the first zone there because that's the one without the mixing valve. Everything's going to be based, all my spacing and everything is going to be based off of the placement of that mixing valve. So I had to get that set right. Then I'll probably jump back to that, get that supply for that first zone done and the return. And then we'll just kind of keep stepping our way this way. But yeah, a lot of it just has to do with laying it all out, making sure it's all going to fit. You see that I had to go back and make an adjustment. I cut this one pipe too short so that it wasn't going to leave me enough room to tie into these mixing valves and have this without them sticking off the end of the board. Now my goal is to actually have these circulators at that point off the end of the board. But it's just getting the layout right and getting everything situated. And you could also see I'm not pressing any of my fittings as I go. I'm not pro pressing anything because just for that exact reason over there, I had that pipe that wasn't long enough, had to make an adjustment, and if I had pressed that, that'd kind of be a nightmare. I'd be starting back at scratch, however far back, or you have to cut it, put in a coupling, which we don't want to do. I've had to do in the past, but you know, you try and avoid that as much as possible. More like 15, and I think 13 3/4. All right, so I got the mixing valve zone tied in. I have a second one to do, but now that I have all my spacing and everything worked out, so I have my returns will cut up between these two circulators. It'll tie into the mixing valve there with a T and an elbow. It's a little tricky, but you'll start seeing what I'll do is bring this return side over and then down and tie into all that. But the hardest part is just getting the layout and the spacing correct. So now that I have all of my spacing figured out, I'm going to mimic this same zone over here. So it's going to be another circulator with mixing valve, just exactly like that. But I've cut my pieces exact same size as I use for all here, so that way it's just simple for me to just redo the whole thing the second time around. Start bringing them. Four and a quarter. Tighten down. loosen that up. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to run the next return line down. Probably hard to see from this view, but the first vertical pipe is the main return. Then we're coming to our first zone return. I'm going to do the second zone return now, and then that's all that's left after tonight will just be the supply and mixing valve for the last zone and the return for the last zone. So I'll probably tie in that other return right now, see where I'm at, recheck some measurements, and then maybe call it a night. We've been going for almost 3.5 hours now. I still have some other things to do around here in the shop and also prep a little more for this, but I'm not going to bore you with putting on more fittings and whatnot like I did earlier. But yeah, I'm going to end up putting that return on right now. I'll finish that. I think I have everything over there. Probably not long here. Just short. All right, so that is where I'm gonna call it quits, but I'll just show you what we ended up with here. So again, all of our boiler end is tied in. You can see our zone 1 supply, zone 1 return. Zone 1 supply will feed into the hot side of the mixing valve, come out here, then it'll come into the return of this one. We're going to end up cutting that pipe right there and using that T right there and an elbow and tying right into that cold side of the mixing valve. So everything's sort of situated, my alignment's good. So yeah, I think next time we're just going to cut right into here. This will be placed basically like so, downward, so that some of the return water coming back from that zone can go into that mixing valve. And that is how that works to cool down that zone. So yeah, I guess again, I might be back out here tomorrow night, so stay tuned, and we'll see you guys soon.